Welcome to Speak to Tisha. I'm Tisha, and today I am so excited to bring you this wonderful guest. Her name is Morgan Dickens. Now, Morgan is an entrepreneur. She is a motivational person who is out there that inspires women. She has this beautiful and wonderful boutique. It's called Vanity Rose Boutique, and there is a reason behind the name. We're going to get into that a little bit more with Morgan. She's going to explain that to us. But Morgan does a lot more than just the boutique. She is very passionate about women's issues and the women's empowerment and movement and things of that nature. And I really want her to come on here and explain all of that so you get a chance to know who Morgan Dickens is. So please welcome Morgan. Morgan Dickens is on our show. And Morgan, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tisha. I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing excellent. So tell the guests and audience about Vanity Rose Boutique. How did you come up with this idea? What was the inspiration behind it?
So Vanity Rose Boutique is actually named after my 1-year-old daughter. Her name is Vanity Rose, and she was the inspiration behind the name of the boutique. The reason for why I started this boutique, though, was because I wanted to be involved in something that was impactful on our society today. I feel as though women do not get the respect we deserve, nor do we get the credit that we deserve. And unfortunately, a lot of that negativity comes from our own selves.
Absolutely.
If we had the tools and information on how to bring positivity to our lives, we would be better as a whole.
You know, you are so right, and I love the way you say that because we don't have a very strong voice. We are still trying to break that glass ceiling, and heaven knows wherever you are at in life, whether you are working a corporate job or you're trying to start your own business, it seems like we keep running up against hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And I know with my business, I've had to learn a lot of, how to get rid of these, these hurdles, that we have had to go through. And I'm sure you've experienced those hurdles as well. So essentially, tell me how you've handled those hurdles throughout the opening process or the thought process of Vanity Rose Boutique. What was your experience and how did you feel when you hit those hurdles? What happened?
So my main hurdle would probably be the financial aspect of it, only because, being a new mom and working as well and also taking care of a household, it's really hard to manage finances and have time to open up a business on the side or to even invest into pieces and products and all of the other things that comes with the business, right? So with that being said, Vanity Rose Boutique was actually supposed to start months before it actually launched. So what I had to end up doing was actually find other ways in order to overcome these obstacles. So once I figured out that, okay, my regular paychecks weren't going to be enough in order for me to order the pieces or order the business cards, it just always seemed like something came up. So I figured out a way in order to make money, which was to sell items in my house that I really didn't need or want anymore. And so with that extra income, I was able to, supplement and order the pieces and do the other things that I needed to for the business. And honestly, as a mom, we make a way out of no way, and it was just an idea that popped into my head. I'm like, hey, you have all this stuff in your house. You've used it once or twice. You're never going to use it again. Like, let's just face it, it's just sitting here. So I said, you know what, there's other people out here that can use it. Let's try to sell it to them and make some money off of it.
But Morgan,
and that's literally what I did.
You bring up a good point, to make something out of nothing. However, there are people who have lots of things in their house. And how do you find the wherewithal? How do you find the inspiration to look at something and say, you know what, I really don't need this. I need to let it go, because I know there are other women who are in businesses and they have not had the idea to look around their house and go, I need to get rid of this. I need to do this in order for me to become successful. There are people out there that may not even have enough to sell whatever belongings or what they have. I mean, they may not even have enough. So where did that thought from? Where was the motivation for that coming up? Because that, I have to tell you, I would have never thought of looking around my house and trying to sell something to create a business. I think that's a great point that you bring up, and that other people may want to think about when they are starting their business. As far as what's in my storage unit right now, I probably could sell a lot to make a business. So it's just, I think it's a great idea. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Honestly, I was just trying to find any type of way to earn some money to put towards the business, because I was having such a hard time making ends meet as it already was. So I already knew that once I paid all my bills, I wasn't going to have any money left over extra to do anything towards the business. So I just thought of whatever ways and different ideas that I could come up with. And honestly, I wouldn't say I'm a materialistic person, but I do have a lot of clothes and shoes. And of course, with a young child, they outgrow their things really quick and fast. So, I said, why not sell it?
Well, did you find yourself being very creative as far as, I know with myself, when it comes to, trying to be creative and make, a penny stretch for the long road. There were times, even myself, when I didn't have any food on the table, no gas in the car. So I had to seek out places that were either giving free food, giving some type of gas card away, some churches, things of that nature, essentially just to keep basic essentials going. You kind of went beyond that. You were keeping the basic essentials going, but also selling your wares and things that you personally had owned, to create this business, which I am just fascinated by this idea. That really gives people the motivation and the spirit to really endeavor to persevere. That's one of my sayings here is that if you really want something bad enough, you have to put it out there, go through these obstacles and push forward, because if you don't, you're going to fail. Now, did you ever feel that you failed at any point while trying to overcome the obstacles? Did you ever just want to you know what? This idea, I'm not so sure about, and I don't even know if the name is right. I don't know if what I'm doing is right. How do I know what people are really wanting? Did you ever feel that? Did you have those thoughts like this is not going to work out?
Oh, absolutely. I think anybody who is starting a business, they kind of have second thoughts about all those different things that you mentioned. However, at the end of the day, if it's something you really want, you have to push through and, as I mentioned before, make a way out of no way. Whether it's handed to you on a silver platter or you have to go out there and wash cars to get the money. Either way, you have to put in work in order to make the business successful. And for me, I wasn't handed anything for free, so I just thought of the quickest and easiest way to make money. And for me, I said, you know what? Fashion is my thing. Some of this stuff is outdated, so I can sell pieces in order to buy pieces. That was an easy, simple logic for me to do. For other people, it might be different. I just know that I have some nice things in my house and closet, and I knew they would be worth something and enough money to get me started.
Well, if I have a couple Gucci purchases out there, I'm going to sell them. That's what I'm going to do. But anyways, how do you really manage your time? Because you have a beautiful daughter. We'll get into that in a minute. I definitely want to delve deeper into that. But how do you manage your time? You're an entrepreneur, you're a parent, you work. That's juggling a lot up in the air. And I have to tell you, I could relate to that as well, because as an entrepreneur and working, out there in the social network and society, it's really hard. And which is the one? I kind of look at it is that you're juggling pins and balls and things like that, and whichever one lands, you kind of have to attack. But how do you manage your time? How do you approach that?
It's definitely very hard. I think right now, for me, it's always going to be family first, and then the business is going to be second, most definitely. But it's all about time management, and I'm a very organized and well thought out person. I literally plan my next day the night before. It may not turn out how I want it to, but as long as I have a plan in action, I have some type of direction that I'm going to take and I'm going to go into. Now, if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, that's fine. I always have a plan B and C. But I think as an entrepreneur, especially the new one, you have to have things like journals and, writing tools, and you have to constantly write things down and create memos for yourself, because it is a new venture for you, and it's an experience that you have to kind kind of feel out. So for me, I just make sure that at the top of the day, of course, after I send my daughter off to school and I go to work, honestly, while I'm at work, I'm also handling business as well during my downtime. And honestly, there's never really any downtime if you think about it, because during my downtime at work, I'm still working. I'm just working towards the business. And even when I'm home, I'm focused on the business and then also my daughter. So it's hard, but I find the balance.
Exactly.
And I'm sure it's going to get even more hectic in the future, but like I said, if you really want something, you'll find a way to work it all out.
Exactly. And you did bring up a good point. Successful entrepreneurs plan their day. Earl Nightingale said in one of his talks, in order for you to be successful, you need to write down goals. If you don't have any goals, you're not going to live a productive life that is filled with passion. Tony Robbins has said the same thing. Les Brown has said the same thing. And it's really great to hear that you do this, that you write down your goals, because that is a very important step to becoming a very successful entrepreneur. Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about that as well. So there's all these people who are very successful. And when I hear this from you, my heart just goes, oh, it's great that she's doing this. So it's very, very good to hear that. And now, what I really find that's interesting with the boutique, with Vanity Rose Boutique, it's very much about fashion. However, what I really like about this when I was looking at your website, and we'll get into that, is that you just don't cater to one size fits all. You have people from all walks of life, different shapes, different sizes, different ages that you really cater to. Tell me a little bit more about that, and what brought you to doing this for women of all facets and walks of life?
Right. So my goal in creating the boutique was to bring women together of all shapes and sizes from different backgrounds, ethnicities, titles or occupations, political affiliation, you name it. So one thing I know that all women have in common is fashion, right? We all love clothes and shoes, but clothes in particular. And if you think about it, when you look good, you feel good. And I want to be sure that my boutique is relatable to all women. My boutique is an outlet for me, and I just hope that it serves the same purpose for other women.
So what sets you apart from the other boutiques that are out there? What is it that makes you different? I know you have fashion for women from all walks of life, all sizes, shapes, etc. But what really sets you apart? What is the one thing that I, as a consumer, can look at with the Vanity Rose Boutique and say, wow, that sets everything else apart? That is where I want to go. What is that one thing, looking from a bigger picture, that sets you apart from many other boutiques that are out there?
So I'm glad you asked that. We actually have a signature item, which is going to be our leather black clutch, which on the front will say in hot pink Vanity Rose. And on the back of each clutch, there will be an inspirational word such as inspire, empower, hope, faith, etc. Because the boutique is surrounded and encompassed around the women's empowerment movement. So we want to make sure that the signature item speaks and is relatable to all women. And if you think about it, a clutch is something we can all use. We're not talking about a blazer or a pair of jeans, something that you may just want to have. This is going to be something you need to have. It's something that you can carry your debit card, your cash in. It's not too big, not too small. It's just perfect. And black is a very neutral color, so you can wear with a lot of different outfits and items. And then the word on the back just speaks volume. So when you're wearing it, you feel prideful, you feel good in it, and it speaks to other women as well when they see it. It's something that they'll say, hey, where did you get that from? I'd like one too. I want to look into that.
Exactly.
Also,
And
on the inside of, also on the inside of the clutch, I'm going to have personal cards for each clutch, and there's going to be a message from me, and it's going to be a different message for each individual woman, but it's going to be on the inside of the card, and it's going to be like a business card with the name of the boutique, but a nice little message on the back of it to make you feel good when you wear it. So like something inspirational, like a little message you can read in the morning before you walk out the door, and you put it under your arm, or you throw it in your car for the day, but it's something you can look at and just begin your day with. That,
I have to tell you, that is a very, very grand idea. I just love it. And for you to put out there positive words of encouragement and then put a card in there that even boosts it much bigger, that is fantastic. I love that idea. I love that you're going with that idea because you're onto something. You really are. And not only with the clutch, there's probably other things that you've probably thought about that you can expand on that. Speaking of clutches, what would be the 3 most important items that you would carry in a clutch on a daily basis?
Oh, for me, it would definitely be obviously my ID and debit card. I never carry cash. Some form or type of lipstick, whether it's a matte or a shimmer or a gloss, something to put on my lips because my lips do get very dry during the day and I like a little moisture throughout the day. And I think the other thing, for me, it would be something sweet because I love sweets. And so I would pick little snacks, even if it's like a little peppermint or like a little piece of chocolate, something in my clutch that I can carry around with and have.
I tell you, I could agree with you because I have my ID. I would have to have a little something sweet. Now, me personally, I'm a chocoholic, okay? I love anything chocolate. The darker, the better. That's just me. I really like that. So it would be, and definitely lipstick. And I believe that could be a universal pattern with women because most women either have some form of makeup, whether it be an eyeliner, mascara, or lipstick. Lipstick is pretty versatile because not only can you put it on your lips, you could use it as a blush and eyeshadow as well. I've seen that happen. The girl who does the tattooing, Kat Von Dijk, I think it is, or something along those lines. She actually did her whole face in lipstick. She did her eyes, she did her cheeks, she did her lips, and I was like, that's like amazing. And I'm like going, where in the heck did she come up with that? But again, I believe that's really universal with all women who have to have the 3, most important essentials in a clutch. And sometimes when we have these huge bags, our whole life gets lost in these bags. So I really do like the idea of a clutch. So let's talk about your daughter. Give me some information as far as how you see her with the boutique and how she's motivated you with this boutique, especially the name.
Yes, so I decided to name it after her because at the time that I had her, I was unemployed. I had taken leave from my job, and I was unemployed for a while. I ended up moving to a different city, and so I was sitting at home a lot, and I kind of got into like a deep funk. I didn't really know it at the time, but I was facing postpartum depression, and so I was always in a dark place, always feeling sorry for myself. And I kind of had felt like I lost my individual identity. I felt like I no longer was Morgan. I was just Vanity's mom. And so with the boutique, it serves as an outlet for me. And I just hope that it does the same for other women because being involved in the hustle of the business has really helped me to find my identity as an individual again. Because being a new mommy can be difficult enough.
Oh.
But this whole movement has really given me joy and helped me to find myself again.
Absolutely.
I found that when I'm working and I'm busier, my schedule's more tight, it's more packed, I find myself happier, if that makes any sense. I guess it's just the hustler in me. And when we tend to sit around, we get to thinking about things, and especially when you're unemployed and you're going through all these different financial hardships, it's hard to get out of that slump. And so when I'm dealing with work and dealing with the baby and especially the boutique, and I know what it stands for and the power that it has behind it, it really makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like more than just her mom. I feel empowered. I feel wonderful. Like I feel full. Whereas before, I didn't really have much of a purpose besides just being her mom.
Exactly. And they do say that idle hands are the devil's magic or whatever that is. But now the one thing I want to touch upon, okay, single mom, pregnant, having the baby, with the boutique and with your ideas, a couple things. It's like, did you find that you had some type of support system? The other thing I want to ask is because now with this type of boutique catering to voluptuous women from different backgrounds, even not so voluptuous women, did you feel that at any point that you would be body shamed? for putting yourself out there in such a light to be in a boutique.
Of course. I mean, I'm not a small woman either. You know, I'm very curvy, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I had sizes that were, you know, in the plus sizes that could cater to everyone, because there are big women who are beautiful that love to wear clothes that maybe the smaller women wear, but these boutiques nowadays, they put out clothes that are, I hate to say it, but more of the grading kind, more of the sluttier kind. It's more so like club attire that you can wear one time and never wear again. And I wanted to make sure that I had different pieces that could appeal to every type of woman, whether it's the working woman, the, you know, the stay-at-home mom, the CEO.
Would you say your clothing is like vintage? Would you consider it classic? Would you consider it like Art Nouveau? Is there a statement of clothing? Because there's many different, you know, genres of clothing. You have the 90s grunge, you had the 80s preps, you have the 2000 whatever they call it these days. But do you have a certain genre or a certain label for your clothing? As I said, Art Nouveau, classy, vintage. What is the style of the clothing that you want to put out there, or that you're putting out there actually in the boutique?
Well, I'm very open, and I like to explore and try different things. So I wanted to make sure that my boutique had a variety of things, whether it was boho chic or vintage. Like I said, I'm going to have different things such as blouses and blazers and nice slacks, but then I'm also going to have the sexy, you know, dresses for date night, the neon colors, the prints, whatever is trending right now, whatever is seasonal, but it's definitely going to be very modern. But I'm open to different styles because I like to wear different styles, and I know all women are not the same when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure I appealed to everyone.
And that's so true, because women are built different. I don't care. A 16 is not a 16 is not a 16. An 18 is not an 18, not an 18. A 5 is not a 5, not a 5. And I could attest to that, because maybe the top of me is a 14 and the bottom of me could be a 24 or a 16 or whatever. It all depends on the style and the way the clothes are made.
Yes.
And I find that more and more of the clothing these days seems to be coming from outside the U.S. And when they come here to the U.S., it's more or less like, okay, really, this is a 10. It looks like it's a, you know, it's a 1 or something. So there is a big difference when it comes to sizes, et cetera, et cetera. What was the biggest factor when it came to creating your business? What support were you getting, or were you even getting support when you were, you know, embarking on this journey?
Honestly, I haven't been getting much support from friends and family. I've been getting more support from people who I barely even know, strangers, and it's really weird, but that's the honest truth.
Did you find that? And I'm sorry, but did you find that kind of emotionally difficult? Did you find that you wanted to retreat because you weren't getting that support? Did that kind of feel as if, why should I bother? Why should I go on? And if you didn't give into that, because everybody does go through a depression. I know I've gone through depression, you know, at certain points in my life when I was facing expanding my business. What I found is that the more people you talked about, you had people coming at you and say, well, what makes you think that you're going to do this? Or what makes you think that that's going to work? Or who do you think you are? In the infamous words of Oprah, who do you think you is, girl? So you see what I'm saying? I mean, that happened to me. Has that happened to you? Have you gotten that flack, that pushback from people? When you're trying to push ahead, you have so many haters that come at you. So have you experienced that, and how did you push through that? How did you get through that with these people?
Oh, absolutely. I get that all the time. And sometimes it may not even be verbal, Tisha. Sometimes it's just literally the fact that you claim you're my close friend, but you can't even simply double tap a post that I put on a social media platform, or you can't even repost something, or better yet, even comment or purchase something. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be verbal. Sometimes it's just their physical actions will show you their distance, all of that. And it doesn't upset me because, you know, at the end of the day, your opinion is your opinion. And if you don't like what I'm doing, that's fine. I still love you, but now I know to love you business because I don't want that negative energy around me. I need to surround myself with women who are empowered and who are full. And honestly, those people that do not support, those women that do not support and that do hate, they actually should consider joining in a women's empowerment group because it may just help them to increase their self-esteem and their confidence if they're around women who are supportive.
Exactly.
So I just look at it like maybe there's a deeper rooted issue that they have going on, and I just don't take it personal, and I just continue to work on my business and becoming successful. Now, don't get me wrong, it is discouraging, and it definitely makes you want to step back and reevaluate things because, hey, this is your business. It's something you're working on, and you expect support from friends and family, but then again, this is your friend, so do you just cut the friendship off, or how do you work that whole thing out? So like I said, I just maintain my distance and focus on my second baby, which is my business, and just keep it moving.
And essentially what happens, Morgan, I have to tell you, is that the people who hate the most, they're the people who are going to circle back around and go, oh, well, I really like to do this, or I want to see how I can help you. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, where was you when I needed the help? You was nowhere.
Exactly.
So, and that seems to happen. Exactly. And that seems to happen. And women, I have to tell you, we could be our own worst critic, and we could be such negative critics for other women. And you mentioned something earlier where we really have to support women and lift them up. In today's society, especially with music, lyrics, things that are happening out there, I see more women cutting each other down as opposed to lifting them up and raising them and empowering them and getting them out there. You said it perfectly on social media. Please like my page. It just takes one tap, but it's amazing. It's free. Exactly. It is free. It only takes one finger, one tap, and hit on the like button and share. But yet, why are we so reserved not to do that? Do you feel there's a reason why women just don't want to do that they don't want to share? Is it because maybe they're jealous? They see that you're being more successful, and why should I share? Why should I make her successful? What do you think it is?
I think it's two things. So I think number one, it could be just simply hating, like you're trying to do better for yourself and they don't want to see you doing better than them. They don't want to see you more successful than them. So it's like jealous and being envious all wrapped in one. And then another thing, I think it has to do with just self-esteem. I feel like when you're not doing better, or when you compare yourself to the next woman, or when you're bashing another woman, that has to do with your self-esteem. So you obviously have something going on within that's making you feel like you need to bash someone else, because it literally takes more energy to be negative than it does to be positive. I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely.
You're literally putting yourself in a whole different mindset and mood just to be nasty towards someone else. That takes a lot of energy to do.
It really does. It really does. And it takes more facial muscles to be angry than it does to be happy. I mean, that's pretty much a proven point. But I do want to get back to one thing that I asked you as far as your daughter. Is she going to play an integral part in Vanity Rose Boutique?
Yes, so I'm so excited because I actually want to incorporate her. I do have some smaller shirts that I have made for her, and I do want to do like a mini photo shoot. So a lot of the pictures that I post on the website, I want her to be involved. I want her to definitely know what the boutique is all about, what women's empowerment stands for, what it means to be wonderful, what it means to be empowered. So she's definitely going to be involved at a small age. We actually have a photo shoot next weekend, so it's going to be great.
Oh, wow. And she's how old again? I forgot. You did say. I just kind of slipped my mind. How old is she?
Well, technically, I'm a mom, so I have to do this. She's 20 months as of yesterday, so 3 months shy of being 2 years old.
I remember doing that. I remember people, well, how old is she? Well, technically, she's 14 months. You know, we always think in months when they're younger. However, when they're older, it's age-wise. Okay, they're 7, they're 8 or whatever. Or, you know, they will remind you as they get older, I'm only 7.5 or I'm only 5.5. They like to put that half in there when they're not quite, you know, where they need to be, and it's kind of cute. I can't wait to see the finished product of the photo shoot with your daughter. I'm sure it's going to be quite adorable, and that's really great. That's another way to, you know, really market your business. That's awesome. I do want to ask you, how can people find Morgan Dickens, and how can they find this beautiful Vanity Rose boutique? How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So we actually have an Instagram page, and it is that's the website. So the website is www.vanityroseboutique.com, and the Instagram page is vanity_rose_boutique.
Awesome. Great to hear. Now, let me invite you, since we've had this wonderful talk and conversation, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Well, in 5 years, I hope to have several different storefronts. So I'm hoping to expand, not just online, but actually to physical locations. And I also want to be more involved in the community as far as going to women's empowerment events and socials and things like that, conferences. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of what it means to be empowered. So right now I am volunteering in a few things, but I want to really be around a group of successful, just hardcore, powerful women, whether it's politicians or lawyers, whatever the case may be. I want to get myself more out there in the community and become involved.
Well, I have to tell you, with the passion and the authenticity that you speak with, you're going to be very successful. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that you'll be very successful. And if there's any way that I can even help you, I'm willing to do that. I definitely want to have you come back on the show. Let's give it, some time, and you could give us some updates as well. I'm actually going to showcase Vanity Rose Boutique on all of my social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, it's going to be out there. So we're going to have links to get into Morgan Dickens' website and her social media, as well as her boutique, where you can find it. I'm so excited. I want to definitely get one of these clutches that she's talking about. So hit her up. Definitely buy a clutch. I'm sure it's very reasonable. Do you have a price range for anything as of yet, or are you still working on it? Still work in progress, maybe?
No, I definitely have a price. So that's another thing about my boutique. I wanted to make sure that all of the pricing of the items were very affordable, because I know a lot of boutiques out there, they charge an arm and a leg for their pieces. And I just wanted to make sure that it was affordable, because we're all working and we're striving to be the best that we can be. And we don't need to be spending all this money on clothes. We can be investing in our businesses, for example. So I try to make everything as affordable as possible. So for the signature clutch, I am selling it for $30.
That's very reasonable. That's a very reasonable price. Well, Morgan, listen, it has been a pleasure having you on with Speak to Tisha. I look forward to your next endeavors and your successes, and I definitely want to keep updated. So keep me updated with everything that's going on. And for those of the listening audience, you can find me, Speak to Tisha, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And please listen to this broadcast. I also invite you to share with other women who are going into business. Maybe there's something on this broadcast that you could take a little bit of a pearl of wisdom away with that will help you as well. Listen, we are women and we're here. We have a very powerful voice, and we definitely need to get that voice out there and share. Let's lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. So, Morgan, thank you again for being on the show.
And I thank you for having me. Hey guys, my name is Morgan Dickens, and I am the CEO of Vanity Rose Boutique in Orlando, Florida. You are just listening to the hottest podcast, Speak to Tisha. Just a reminder, Vanity Rose Boutique is making its first appearance at the Wonderful Effect Pajamas and Pearls Social, and it is going to be held in Jacksonville, Florida on Saturday, September 21st from 11 to 6 p.m. Space is limited, so act fast. Tickets can be purchased online at www.wonderful